This lesson is predominantly coming from this section of the Bible shown in the highlighted section of this chart. Lesson 27. The United Monarchy. A tall, strong man by the name of Saul from the tribe of Benjamin was chosen as Israel's first king. The people were all excited. King Saul started out good, but eventually he worried more about his position and image in the eyes of the people rather than his standing in the eyes of God. He disobeyed God's instructions, intruding into the priest's office by offering sacrifice. After being rebuked by the prophet and priest Samuel, he again disobeyed God's instructions regarding a mission of war. When questioned by Samuel as to why he did not obey God, instead of confessing and taking the blame, he tried to make himself look righteous by saying he did it his way so he could sacrifice to God. In a classic statement succinctly describing a godly biblical principle, Samuel replied, quote, "To obey is better than sacrifice," unquote. The lesson to be learned here is that no matter what sacrifices people make in the name of God, it avails nothing if they refuse to obey God's instructions. An example of this attitude of self-will worship is the story of Cain, who, although believed in God and brought God a sacrifice, he would not do it the way God ordained. No sacrifice or offering, no matter how great, will ever win God's favor if God's word is disregarded in the process. King Saul was troubled by an evil spirit for the rest of his life and became paranoid and evil. He was eventually killed in battle. A young man by the name of David from the tribe of Judah, who proved his faith in God in his defeat of a giant named Goliath, was chosen by God as the next king of Israel. He was a champion of praise. He made Jerusalem the capital of a united Israel. Although David desired to build God a temple, God told him that he would not build the temple, but his son Solomon will build the temple. However, God was so touched by David's desire to build God a temple, God made David a promise which has become known as the Davidic covenant. The details of this covenant are spelled out in 2 Samuel chapter 7 verses 8 through 17. The main points of this covenant are: the Messiah will come from David's line of ancestors, and therefore the Messiah will be known as, quote, the Son of David, unquote. This is why Jesus is called, quote, the Son of David, unquote, many times in the New Testament. This is also why some of the Gospels use Jesus' long list of ancestry as one of the ways to identify him as the Messiah. God promised that this Messiah, which will come from the tribe of Judah and from the lineage or family of David, will rule forever. His kingdom will have no end. After David's death, Solomon became the next king and built a beautiful temple in Jerusalem, commonly referred to as Solomon's Temple. God appeared to Solomon twice, and God promised Solomon great wisdom, riches, fame, and a long life, but warned him not to depart from God's precepts. However, King Solomon married many foreign heathen women, which was against the commandments of God. These heathen women turned his heart away from God, so that not only did Solomon worship idol gods, but also built temples for them as well, which was against the first and second commandments. Because King Solomon disobeyed God, God told King Solomon that he would split the kingdom after Solomon's death, only giving 2 tribes to his son. After the death of King Solomon during the reign of his son, King Rehoboam, As prophesied, the nation split in two. On this map, the southern kingdom of Judah is in the red shaded area, while the northern kingdom of Israel is in the gold shaded area. The study of Israel's history from this point on now becomes a bit more complicated as the Bible jumps back and forth describing the events of both kingdoms. A very important point to remember was the fact that the temple was in Jerusalem, which is in the southern kingdom of Judah. This has a strong influence on how the history of these two kingdoms would go. In our next lesson, we're going to give a general overview of the history of both kingdoms, learning some very important points about how an entire nation can be affected by their leader's spiritual condition. Knowing what happens to both kingdoms plays a great part in understanding the rest of the Bible. Don't skip that important lesson. Talk to you next time. Goodbye for now.